سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وقدوتنا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, first we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again. Allah has granted us the tawfiq and the ability to have performed our Maghrieb Salaah with Jama'ah. Alhamdulillah. We ask Allah to accept our Salah. We ask Allah to grant us sincerity, istiqamah. Ameen. Rabbal Alameen. Inshallah, continuing with our discussion regarding the works of Imam As-Suyuti rahimahullah, Sharh Al-Sudur, Bisharh Hali Mawta wal Qubur, where he discusses the condition of the deceased and also what happens with the deceased in the grave and the different stages they go through. And as we've mentioned, the first chapter he deals with and he discusses is the beginning of death and where it all started. And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah created Nabi Adam and all of his children and the Malaika, they said that, Ya Allah, that how is this earth big enough for all of those people? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded, Allah says, don't worry, I've created death. Because death will bring the balance in this dunya. And then they said, Ya Allah, if that is the case, then how will they ever enjoy this dunya? How will they find pleasure in this world? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded, and Allah says, no, I have created hope again. So the hope which Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks about is our hope in this dunya. And sometimes, as the hadith of Rasul mentioned, as we mentioned, that sometimes our hope is excessive in this dunya. It goes beyond our actual lifespan which Allah has given to us. As the hadith mentioned, where Rasul drew the square and all the lines inside in one line protruded, and said that this line going out is the hopes of insan, because our hopes always exceed our life. And then, so in this hadith, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in this chapter, we are reminded that how hope is a distraction from death. And when the person's hope in this dunya is excessive, it can distract a person from the reality of death. That person won't remember death a lot. Why? Because his hopes in this dunya is excessive. And then at the same time, when a person has no hope in this dunya, so always we learn in deen, there should always be a balance. So when there's no hope again in this dunya, and that's why we find the next chapter again. When a person has no hope in life, the next thing we want, we desire death again. Too much hope, we forget about death. Too little hope, no hope, we desire death to come. So the next chapter, Imam As-Suyuti rahimahullah discusses النهي عن التمنى الموت والدعاء به لضر ينزل في المال والجسد. He mentioned it, discusses the prohibition from Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where we shouldn't desire death to come. For the reason of, for example, Allah sent difficulty in terms of our wealth, or our rizq, our sustenance, or Allah sent some illness or sickness to us, and then we become hopeless, we lose all hope, and now we desire death to come. So the first hadith Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the author brings of Rasulullah, is where Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, لا يتمنى أحدكم الموت لضر نزل به. That none of you should wish and hope for death because of a difficulty and affliction that has come your way. So not because of, we shouldn't desire death because of trial and test, difficulty that came our way. And then says Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam beautifully, where he says, فَإِنْ كَانَ لَابُدَّ مُتَمَنِّيًا, if it is that the test and the trial becomes unbearable, then rather make dua. Says, Allahumma ahyini ma kanat al-hayatu khayrun li. Oh Allah, give me life and keep me alive as long as life is good for me. As long as there's good in it for me. وَتَوَفَّنِي إِذَا كَانَتِ الْوَفَاةُ خَيْرًا لِي. Oh Allah, grant me death if death is better for me. And here we giving over our affair to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we acknowledge that we do not know what is best for us. Allah knows what is best for us. Allah might know that at that moment your connection with Allah is so strong that in Allah's wisdom, Allah decides, I take you at that moment. Then Allah take you in that moment and you leave this dunya in a good state. It might be bad for you, you don't know, so you might be in a state where you far and distant from Allah, and you die in that state, then we die in a state where we far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So rather, hand over the affair to Allah. Say, oh Allah, if life is good for me, because you're the one with wisdom, Ya Allah. You're the one who's created me. You know everything about me, Ya Allah. If it is good for me, then grant me life. And if his death is better for me, then take my life. And grant me to be, or you decide, Ya Allah. Because why? Allah's infinite wisdom, Allah knows what is best for us. Like the example of Surah Kahf, where we read the story of Khidr alayhi salam. And Nabi Musa alayhi salam, when he killed the youngster, and everything Khidr alayhi salam did was with the command of Allah. Nabi Musa couldn't understand why you take the life of an innocent child. And afterwards it was explained by Khidr that this child, he would have been disobedient towards his parents. He would have caused many distress towards his parents. And because of Allah's wisdom, Allah decided to take him away. And again, it is not, we are not Khidrs. We cannot decide that this child I see with bad behavior, this one I can say, I see better way make dua, Allah must take him away. No, it is in the wisdom of Allah. It is in the wisdom of Allah. This is what we learn. So Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying, don't wish and desire death. Rather, make this dua. In another narration, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, don't wish for death. Why in qata'a amalu? Your actions will be cut off. Meaning the opportunity to do good will be no more there. So while we're still breathing, while we're still alive, the opportunity will always be there to worship Allah, always be there to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In one story it is mentioned, one of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he suffered severe burns. His body was covered with burn wounds. And then the Sahaba radiallahu anh visited him, and he says that, Wallahi, if it was not for Allah's Messenger Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam that prohibited us from making dua for death, I would have made dua for death. Meaning, because why? Rasulullah has prohibited this. Even though we went through so much of pain, we know that when the person experiences burn marks, it's one of the worst pains we can experience. Imagine your entire body is covered with burn wounds and all of those things. He says, if it wasn't for the prohibition of Rasulullah, I would have asked Allah to end my life. Rather, I make sabr on the test and the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then another narration the author brings under this chapter, one of the last ones, it says that لا يتمنى أحدكم الموت فإنه لا يدري ما قدم لنفسه. That none of you should desire for death, because you do not know what you have sent forth for yourself. Meaning you do not know what will be your condition that side. Like this is, sometimes you think the grass is green on the other side. Just to come and experience it is a complete different thing. Not what I expected. So while Allah's given us life, author mentions Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam reminds us that don't desire death. When we go through difficulty, try to seek contentment through the reward Allah is preparing through the difficulty. Remind yourself that this difficulty is a means of purification. It is a means of Allah elevating our status. It is a means of so many benefits in it for us, if only we could see. And while we're still alive, the opportunity to do good is always there. The opportunity to do good is always there. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the tawfiq and understanding, to make us of those who will be pleased with the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when we go through difficulty and trial, we make sabr and we remind ourselves that Allah has given us so much extra bounties, that has used the time Allah has given us to utilize it and to invest it in the akhirah. We ask Allah to give us the tawfiq and understanding. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.